Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Puck Time here on Wager Talk TV. I'm Alex B. Smith. You can find me at sportsmemo.com. I am hosting in place of the Prez for today, tomorrow, and Monday and Tuesday. I am joined here with the legendary Dave Cokin and Carmine Bianco. You can find both of them over at wagertalk.com. Guys, how are you doing? How did you guys enjoy the opening night of the NHL season? Hopefully, you guys were able to watch the games as I was not because of a cable box issue that I had to resolve yesterday. So,
You know,
uh,
I watched a lot of hockey last night. Had a winner with the Washington Capitals. Nice comeback there. Um, I like the Golden Knights. Didn't play it, but that got there, and it was a pretty good night overall. Always nice to start with an underdog winner. And I will mention I have another play up for tonight, and you can get that if you're on one of my. I'm not selling it individually. You can get it though if you're part of the package, all access package. Get one now at wagertalk.com.
Yeah, definitely get a package of Dave's. Dave, you've been absolutely killing it in NFL and college football, and you always do great work in hockey. So that is worth its weight. And Dave, I got to give you credit too, because I was on Washington last night, but a long time ago, I remember listening to you on radio, and you mentioned this. I think it was like the NBA when like the Spurs won or something, and you said about the whole theory of fading the champion, the defending champion in their first home game because of how the ceremonies go and the emotion and different things. And ever since then, I've always kind of tried to do that with basketball and hockey specifically. So
Yeah,
that,
it's not a bad angle. They already had the ring ceremony had already been done, but
right.
they still, they're raising the banner and everything like that. And it's not so much a distraction for the home team because they're probably going to be excited. But if you're the road team, you don't want to watch that.
Yeah,
And
especially a road
and
team
last,
that saw it, their own a couple of years ago.
well, yeah, especially because the Capitals they got to do that last year and they didn't get to do it this year. So didn't start off well, that's for sure. I mean, the Blues came out flying, but after that, the Caps took over and got lucky in the overtime.
Yeah, definitely. Carm, how are you doing? How was your night last
Uh,
night?
I'm good. The funny thing is, I had a couple plays up last night, but I didn't get to watch either one of the. Well, I got to see the tail end of the Sharks Golden Knights game. I actually volunteered at a charity
Yeah.
event. My friend owns a big poker company, and they did something for like ileitis and colitis foundation. So I came out of retirement and I was a poker dealer last night at this event, but they had the Leaf game on the big screen and I had a perfect view of it. So in between dealing out some cards for the great event, I got to watch the Leaf game. I had the over in that game, so I was pretty happy with how that went. And then I got home, got changed, and I watched the Sharks game, which I also had the over on, and it did look decent at a time, but from the mid-second period on, as Dave will tell you, I just did not see how the Sharks were even going to get any pressure uh, on the Golden Knights to score a goal. It
No,
just the Knights just absolutely dominated them on both ends of the ice. Just a fantastic game, and this Vegas team,
they're good.
it's one game in, but they are a good team and
They're
a
real
team
good.
to be excited about.
Uh,
So yeah, definitely. So.
it's
Yeah.
Uh,
not local bias. I think they're the best team in the West. They've got two monster lines, and the third line. I mean, Stastny's on the third line now
Right.
because they decided to put rookie Cody Glass, who scored in his first NHL game, out there with Pacioretty and Stone. So you got two really good lines. Then you got that fourth line, which creates all kinds of havoc. I'm not sure about the defense. That could be the one area where they could use some strength. And Schmidt got hurt last night.
Yeah, that
So
knee to knee hit.
yeah.
yeah, keep an eye on that. Hopefully he's not out for long. So that's something you always have to pay attention to in the NHL is injuries.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, let's get underway with this card. We got a Thursday card, not the super busy Thursdays that we'll see later on, but more than enough games. Start at the top at rotation number 9 and 10, Florida and Tampa Bay, the battle of the Sunshine State. We got Tampa Bay as a minus 175 to around $1.80 favorite. Total high at 6.5, shaded to the under. This is a game that kind of obviously I want to look at Tampa Bay, how they come out after an abysmal playoff performance last year. They definitely want to shake off the not only the rust but just the whole thought of what happened in the postseason, and what better time to do it against a Florida team that everybody's really high on. Obviously, the debut for Joe Quenneville, Sergei Bobrovsky. This should be a really good game and always a spirited battle between these two in-state rivals. Dave, what are you looking at in this matchup?
It should be fun to watch. The Panthers are going to be one of the more entertaining teams in the league because, much like last season, they're going to be all offense and not much defense. Bobrovsky's going to have to come up big for them. And look, he's the big difference maker. If they'd had better goaltending last year, they would have made the playoffs. And one would assume with Bobrovsky, the goaltending will be improved. But he's going to see a lot of rubber with that defense. As for Tampa, we'll see if there's a hangover or not. I wouldn't bet against it early on. I mean, they've got to shake off what happened last season. And I also think you'll see less stress put on the regular season this year for the Lightning, so they'll be fresh come playoff time. I don't know whether that's a good strategy or not. I just think it's what will take place.
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. That they were trying to go for the top points record and most wins in the league last year, and and like I said, Vasilevsky was the guy who was. Vasilevsky, for as much as he played, Louis Domingue had a lot of time too and played really well in relief. Domingue not being the backup, now it's McElhinney who comes over from Carolina. So it'll be interesting to see how they go about. Obviously you want to win every game, but like you said, maybe not make not go.
Look. Here's what it comes down to. Everybody in sports should have learned a lesson a few years ago when the Golden State Warriors were clearly the best team and decided to go all out to break a record with regular season wins, and they were gassed by the time the playoffs came around. Seeding doesn't mean that much in the NHL or the NBA as far as I'm concerned. The idea is just get to the playoffs and be ready to be playing your best at that time. So I thought the Lightning kind of made a little bit of a mistake last year, pushing as hard as they did to get the President's Cup.
Yeah, the President's Trophy almost seems like a curse nowadays. There's been a lot of winners of that trophy to not make it all the way through the Stanley Cup final. Carm, you got any thoughts on this one?
I think we talked about this earlier. I've always seen these, these interstate games, Florida and Tampa Bay. They're always close ones, and you don't really see one team dominate the other, even, as we talked about, the early years where the Panthers were really good, and now with Tampa Bay, but Tampa swept them last year. The first couple of weeks of the NHL season, you're playing them, but you just don't know, how it's going to unfold. You kind of hope, teams are building on what they did last year. I don't think there's any hangover for Tampa Bay from last year. I think they're just going to come out and they're just going to roll out those lines. And you look at the players on their team, and it's just, talent, top and bottom. They're where they should be right now. They're $1.75 here to win this game, and they probably do. But I'm a big proponent of teams with good coaches, and I like Quenneville, and we'll see. And sometimes teams in every sport, if there's a coaching teams respond differently. So maybe we see something from the Panthers. I think it's going to be a close game tonight. It's kind of tough to say take the 1.5 with Florida. You've got to lay $1.65. I'd probably lean to the under here, if anything, at 6.5.
Okay. All right, cool. Sounds good. We'll go to the next game. Montreal heading down to Carolina. You got the Hurricanes at home, minus $1.60 favorite. Seeing totals. See a couple of 5.5s, but I'm also seeing some 6s, so definitely want to shop around for that total. And this is one that I like. I actually played this. I have the first period over in this game. You look at Montreal, and I read a quote from the GM, Mark Bergevin. He said that this is the healthiest this team has been in nearly 5 seasons. And that's saying something. You normally want to start a season with healthy as possible, but clearly that just hasn't been the case, and they've had a lot of big injuries. Carey Price, we've seen him kind of, show his age a little bit and stuff, so forth. And now you got a Carolina team, obviously that great playoff run that they had last year. They want to try and keep that home spirit, that home energy afloat going into the beginning of the season. I could see this coming off to a really hot start. So 1.5 over minus $1.20, something I really like. But Carm, we'll start with you. What do you like in this game?
Yeah, it's I'm going to touch on something that Dave talked about in a second, but with the Canadiens, I like the the Canadiens D is going to be very important for this team this year because they may not score a lot of goals, but they're going to have to prevent a lot of goals. And Weber's got to stay healthy. You got Weber and Medi, the Chariot, and Petrie on defense. The one thing that I like what they did, it was picking up Kincaid in the offseason.
Definitely.
Because when we talk about the whole load management stuff,
Yeah.
making the playoffs is important. Where you finish doesn't matter as much. You need a Carey Price who's going to be healthy, and because of that, you're going to need Kincaid to play probably about 30 games this year. And you can't have Price playing back-to-back nights. You just can't have him. We've seen over the last couple of years, it just wears on that guy's body, and he faces so much puck, and that's where the deke again comes in. So the Canadiens are going to have to stay healthy. They're going to have to sort of manage Carey Price throughout the year if they want to try and make the playoffs. Now you look at Carolina, and Carolina's different. I like their D, and you look at the talent up front. Aho, who was signed or who was offered an offer sheet by Montreal, if you remember, during the offseason, but the Canes obviously signed that one, and they were perfectly happy with all the bonuses. But Aho, Teravainen, Zingle, Williams, Stahl, Chechenov or whatever. But here's the one thing that scares me about the Carolina Panthers is the goaltending duo, Reimer and Mrazek.
Yeah.
Are you confident in these guys winning you playoff series? Now, I know what they did last year, but as good as that talent is in front of them, I watched Reimer a lot when he was in Toronto. I watched also Mrazek, in Detroit, because we got a lot of those games up here, north of Toronto. It's the goaltending that scares me a little bit, but it's something that can also, you've got half a season to remedy that come the trade deadline. So as far as tonight goes, I'm back in the Canes.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. A little pricey for me, and I decided not to play it. I don't like laying big prices early in the season, because, well, I just don't. I might do it later on and play some -1s, but not this soon. I do think Mrazek has taken a step forward since he's gotten to Carolina. I think he's a better goalie than he was in his Red Wing days. Canadiens look like a borderline playoff team. It all depends on how much offense they can produce, and that looks like the scary part of the proposition for Montreal. Is they're good on the blue line. They've got a great goaltender in Price, but I don't know if the offense is going to be there.
Yeah, that makes sense, and it's interesting to talk about with Mrazek and Reimer, that duo. And mentioned it. I talked about it ad nauseum on the Western Conference preview last week about how it's important to have this 1A 1B system with some of these teams. And Reimer and Mrazek, it seems like that's a good, formidable, at least duo, where you can't rely on one of those guys to give you 65, 70 games, but having them split 45 starts, that seems like something that would be a little bit more manageable, and they might get a little more production out of it.
I, to be honest with you, I've never been a big proponent out of 1A, 1B. I want a starting goaltender who's going to play 50, 55 games. I think the team develops more of a rhythm with one guy in the cage for most of the games, especially the big games.
Well, yeah, I guess that 1A, 1B is kind of a bad way to say it, but I was saying it as far as like you won't have the days of where a guy going 70 games or trying to play.
No.
Yeah, that's what I meant by 1A, 1B, in the sense of they will split knowing that they're going to share a good amount of time. Like I said, it won't be any more than 60 games for one particular
But the
goal.
downside of that is you need to have a number one come playoff time.
Right.
Because that's when you got to be playing the same guy, unless he goes bad. You got to be playing the same guy in the playoffs.
I agree. Yeah, definitely agree with that. All right, we'll go to the next game. Winnipeg and New York Rangers. This would be an interesting one. Definitely like to see what Artemi Panarin does in his debut at Madison Square Garden. Short price with him too, minus $1.20, $1.25. You got total at 6, slightly shaded to the over. Jets have been an absolute mess. We know the changes they have on the blue line. No Dustin Byfuglien as he tries to figure out some personal issues. They were able to get the Line A contract restructured and settled. So maybe that will be something that they can just kind of put that in the past and move forward with. But I look at the Rangers here in this spot. Like I said, this is a team that I don't think they're going to be back in the playoff contention this year. But I think we see some more excitement from them. I think Lundqvist, at least put up another decent, formidable year. He's going to have to play a lot of games because I don't know if Georgiev's going to be the answer as a guy that played 25 or 30 games exactly. So that goaltending will be questionable outside of Lundqvist with the Rangers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there's a lot of hype on the Rangers. They've got one of the two most exciting rookie prospects in the league, and that'll be a plus. Panarin is a huge add. I don't like Winnipeg.
No.
I bet them not to make the playoffs, and got a small plus price on that, and I'm pretty happy with that bet. Their defense stinks, and Hellebuck was not real good last year, and you wonder if he's going to bounce back or not. They've got some great talent up front, lots of speed, but I think Winnipeg is a team that could have some problems. Nevertheless, I'm not sure I buy the Rangers being the favorite in this hockey game. I think there might be some slight value with Winnipeg. It's not on my card, but I lean the Jets.
Yeah, I'm with you there with the Jets as far as on the season. I played the point total under, and like I said, just everything just kind of seemed like a mess. And Hellebuck's a goalie that I was really high on when he first came through in the league. I thought he was going to be a guy that would stick around, be a top 5 guy for years to come, but that just doesn't seem to be the case. He seems to just kind of be a middle of the road kind of goalie. Carm, what are your thoughts?
I agree wholeheartedly with what you guys said. I honestly think the wrong team is favored here. The problem lies in the fact that when you know the wrong team is favored, you want to still get some type of a price, and you're only getting like $1.05 on Winnipeg right now. It's the defenses for this team, and it's a line that sort of confuses me because Winnipeg is going to need to, given the way their defense is this year, at least to start, they're going to need to outscore teams to win. I'm not sure if that defense is going to hold up. And the Rangers, on the other hand, and this is with reference to the total again, are going to score goals. That rookie, Paco, if I can pronounce his Capo.
Great name. Yeah, got a great name.
Yeah, when I watched him in the junior championships, he was unbelievable.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, and you look at Panarin. Panarin scored 27 goals each of the last 4 years.
Yep.
He's going to he's going to score some goals, and their defense gets a little bit better with the addition of Trumba.
Yep. From Winnipeg, all right. So
yes, from Winnipeg.
Team.
It's funny some of the matchups tonight, but and I'm having a little difficulty pronouncing people's names today, so you'll have to let me go. I haven't had my second coffee, but the total is only at 6, and a lot of the NHL totals are at 6.5 typically, and this one's only at 6, and maybe it's because the Rangers tend to play a little bit better at home, but I still think the Jets here. They outscore. Let's give it the same score as both games ended last year with Winnipeg winning both 4-3. Let's go with 4-3 Winnipeg tonight. How's that?
That sounds about fair. That's Carmine Bianco. That's Dave Cokin. I'm Alex B. Smith. You're watching Puck Time on Wager Talk TV. Check out our plays. I'm over at sportsmemo.com. Dave and Carm are over at wagertalk.com. We continue with the card. You got 15 and 16 on the rotation. The Pittsburgh Penguins opening their season at home. Minus $1.85 favorites against the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres, is it 50th anniversary year? I saw the new jerseys that look really cool. I'm going to have to get one of those. It's the gold and white with the logo. So that's going to be on my shopping list when I get off with you guys. Probably get that online. So as far as this game goes, they're plus 160. Can they pull off the upset, Carm? Can they disrupt the? We saw them play the Penguins tough last year. Could they do that again this year tonight?
I'm gonna take a hit from once this gets posted on YouTube from some of the Pittsburgh fans, and that's only because I am a Sabres fan. I ordered the 50th anniversary jersey. It'll be hanging up in my studio. Once the studio is set, I have a new studio that'll be coming up. That'll be set up for Puck Time throughout the year.
Yeah,
and
listen, hey, Tom, replace the Newton jersey with that one.
Yeah.
All right.
I've got the Fitzpatrick up here as well too. That's got to go.
But you got to keep that Khalil Mack jersey up though.
Yes.
Yes, the Khalil Mack one will stay up there. But listen, the Sabres, they did take 2 or 3 from Pittsburgh last year. For some reason, every year, and this is usually towards the end of the year, you'll see the Sabres at an astronomical price against Pittsburgh. Last year, I think they beat them as a plus 300, I think it was. The year before, they were plus 300. It's usually at the end of the season because you've got the Penguins who are battling for a playoff spot. The Penguins last year, same thing. Listen, the Penguins got a ton of talent, but this team every year it just seems the last couple of years have been struggling to make up to get into the playoffs. The one move they made that I really like, okay, we'll talk about the Sabres first. They re-signed Skinner, which is really important because they're going to need those goals. The one thing I liked about Pittsburgh is picking up Galchenyuk.
He's a good player.
He's going to go very well with Malkin. I think they'll gel really well together. Hopefully they stay on that line. You think they stay on that line?
Prop bet. I didn't bet it, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Malkin could win the scoring title this year.
Okay.
I mean that's good. That's a really good looking line. Of course, he's got to stay healthy.
Right, and the thing too with that is with the absence of Kessel, it's going to be more pressure on him and Crosby specifically. But like I said, that those top six forwards in general to kind of pick up that point production. So yeah, that makes sense as somebody you can see him in the top 5 of that scoring race.
Look, the Penguins have a chance to make a big run this year. I mean, they've got a ton of talent, but whether they can stay healthy or not is another story. The Sabres, look, Buffalo last year, what they have, a 10-game or 11-game winning streak?
Yep, 10 games.
They still couldn't make the playoffs.
Yeah,
and that's the thing.
And I don't really see any possibility of them being in the playoffs this year either. And I'm not playing the game tonight, but there won't be a whole lot of spots where I'm taking the Sabres.
No, listen, and you're correct. They're after that 10-game streak, they were in first place at the end of November, and even I knew, and I talked about it on the shows, this is not going to last.
No.
At some point, they are going to absolutely tank it, and they went 16, 33, and 8.
Wow.
Okay, their next 57 games, I think that works out to.
Right.
That's as bad as it gets, and they much like the Titanic, they sunk pretty quick. So. Yeah, you can't take the Sabres tonight. Even a diehard fan cannot take them. But it's a pass because I don't want to lay $1.85 with the Penguins until I see how they roll out their lines.
Yeah, I get you on that. Speaking of sinking to the bottom, we've got the Minnesota Wild on the road against the Nashville Predators tonight. Nashville minus $1.65, $1.70 favorite. Total 5.5 shaded to the under. This Minnesota team's just an absolute mess as far as organizationally. I memean, Paul Fenton gets fired after being on the job 14 months as GM, right after the draft, mind you. So he picks a bunch of players and he gets shown the door. Bill Guerin takes over his spot. We've seen Minnesota, obviously, the injury-prone Zach Parise, who's, his cap, crunch, and him and Suter, those contracts that they just won't be able to get rid of are going to hamper them for a while. Devin Dubnyk's a goalie that, he has some flashes of brilliance, and then sometimes he just looks bad. And this is a team that 13 of their first 17 games are going to be away from St. Paul, and they didn't play that well on the road. They were a much better home team the last couple of years. So starting in Nashville, which is always a hostile environment for division opponents, I would look at probably playing the puck line possibly with Nashville here.
I don't have anything on this game. I want to see what the Predators do in terms of fixing the power play, which was just so pathetic last year. And it really cost the team a chance to make a big run. They were fine at even strength, but special teams was not good. Minnesota, look, Boudreau's a good regular season coach, so this team will probably find a way to be in the race to make the playoffs. But they're not really a very good hockey team, and things could get away from the Wild if they get up to a slow start. So this is a watch game for me. I'm not going to play it at all.
Carmine, what do you think?
Yeah, I talked about this on Twitter. I posted a short video this morning and gave this as a free play. Listen, Dave talked about it. That power play for the Preds, if they want to compete, and I think they will compete this year, it has to improve. And they made a move during the offseason, which I liked. I understand, they had to move Subban, but with that money, they picked up Matt Duchene.
Yeah.
He's a very good centerman, and he's very good on the power play. He's going to help that power play. There was nothing more frustrating than watching this team in the playoffs last year, and if you had them, it's like, all right, power play, let's go. And it was just power play after power play, nothing. They just came up blank. They start this season off. Listen, last year they came out of the gates firing. They won 13 of their first 16 games last year, the Preds. They have a very heavy home schedule to start. They play 10 of their first 14 games at home. This is where you literally you come out of the gate storm, means you pick up that momentum. And, they're going to compete with the Vegas Knights, Golden Knights, for that top spot in the West this year. If and only if they can get that power play going, because it's such a big part of every team's chemistry, of every team's makeup. If your power play and your penalty killing, you get that number where they talk about where it's like over 100 or equals 100, your percentage. You get that going, and your team succeeds. It's the same as in the NFL. You win the turnover battle, you should win. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, and you could say the same for Minnesota with their power play too. I've watched it live and seen it firsthand for quite some time, where they do too much. There's always the extra pass, or there's a guy that's out of position. And where with Nashville, it was kind of just they weren't doing enough. They were holding the puck a little too long. And one's just as bad as the other. Like I said, you have to have a consistency and fluidity with your power play, and maybe Duchesne helps with that.
And not. I'm not knocking the guy, but PK Subban was actually a liability in the power play last year because everything was going through him at the point. You got to work the puck down low on the power play, and Subban just was not getting it done in that area. We'll see what happens with him in his new location this year.
Yeah, definitely. We got 19-20 on the rotation. This should be a good one. A couple people I know have this.
Best game of the night.
Yeah, best game of the night, and a possible Stanley Cup playoff preview or final preview from some people I've talked to. Dallas Stars at home. This is a pick 'em price basically against the Boston Bruins. I will definitely be watching this, and you wonder, like I said, Stanley Cup hangover. It also kind of affects the finalists that lost sometimes. See how they come out on the road against a Dallas team that is much improved. I picked them to come out of the West. I love the pickup of Perry and Pavelski. Ben Bishop's still one of the best goalies in the world when he's healthy. And once again, we talk about load management. Anton Khudobin is more than a sturdy guy to have as a backup. So I like this Dallas team quite a bit going into the season. I'm sure they would like to start off the home season, the season and at home with a win here tonight.
I'll go along with that. And I think this is a really big game for Dallas to get things started there. They want to have some enthusiasm right out of the gate. They were a decent team last year, and they do clearly appear to be improved on paper this season. The Bruins are still going to have one of the best first lines in the business. And look, they're a very good hockey team. There's no real weaknesses on this Bruins squad. However, I came close to playing this tonight. I looked at Dallas, and I think actually with the line moving to Boston now, the favorite, that looks like public money. I think Dallas offers a little bit of value. It didn't make my card because I really don't want to go more than one game deep in the first few days of the season, and this wasn't my favorite game of the night. But I do lean this Dallas way in this game.
Carm, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, same here. Listen, as Dave mentioned, the Bruins, they've got talent throughout the lineup. They just got the guys who do their job, and because of this talent and because of their goaltending, this is a team that isn't susceptible to these long losing streaks that can knock a team, from a third or fourth spot into battling for a playoff spot towards the end of the year. That's not in the Bruins' makeup. That's not in their DNA. So this is a team once again that is going to battle eventually with the Toronto Maple Leafs for that second spot in that division, because I'm going to give that division to Tampa Bay again this year. Leafs are not to go off on a tangent, but they're a very improved team. But this is still Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, it's theirs to lose.
I want to ask a question here.
The way to look at it.
All right, since we're off on a tangent for a moment.
Yes.
Okay. Is Babcock the first coach fired if the Maple Leafs don't get out of the gate well? I think there's a ton of pressure.
Absolutely. Listen, absolutely. I'm not a Leaf fan. I have nothing against them, and you guys have heard me with the Prez hop on Toronto fans. My thing with the Toronto fans is this, and I'll do this really quickly. Is for so many years I've been surrounded by Toronto fans, and all they did during the Harold Ballard years was defend the team and say, we're rebuilding. Cliff Fletcher, as a GM, we're rebuilding. Every general manager, it's a 5-year plan rebuilding. The fans never, at least the ones that I knew, never said, our team sucks. Our team sucks. And their team did suck. Okay, now they have a fantastic team. Okay, and they're going to be good. And to go with what Dave is talking about, I'm not sure Babcock is the guy to lead this team to a Stanley Cup.
I don't like what he did last night.
No, I know.
I mean, I know they won the game, but listen,
Yeah.
I mean, you want a happy clubhouse.
Yeah, Spezza should have been in the
They
lineup.
signed Jason Spezza, who's been in the league 15 years. I think he took a hometown discount to stay there. Now, he's not the player he used to be. He's never going to be a 100-point guy again.
Right, of course.
But the thing is, Spezza, he's one of the old pros in that clubhouse. And to make him a healthy scratch in game one, well, I don't know about that move.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, Dave. There, he should have been there. Even if he's on the fourth line, he's going to come out and play as if he's playing as if he's on the first line. He would have given it his all. And yeah, he did take a discount to come and play in Toronto because he knows that this is a team that's going somewhere. And I agree with you. If this team shows any type of a losing streak or struggles, Babcock could be gone. And I think it would be a good move. Who could they bring in? I really don't know who's out there on the market right now, coaching-wise. But I think he's got a short leash as far as I'm concerned. So agree or disagree, it's my opinion as far as that goes.
No, that's something. I mean, that's something to think about. Like I said, and if they were to get rid of him, who would they would bring in? I mean, Babcock, obviously, you look at his history overall. He's been solid.
There's always guys that you can bring in.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's not hard. There'll be lots of guys who would want that job.
And so you guys saying that it doesn't have to be a well-known or a veteran coach to come in and replace. I mean, you look at my Hawks, for example. They got rid of Quinville, brought in Jeremy Colliton. Seemed to be questionable, but the team played hard under him and made a run. So if you think a young unknown guy could come in with this Toronto team, which clearly has way more talent, could win.
I always joked around over the last couple of years that, and I know it wouldn't happen. It would never happen. But if Columbus struggled this year, and Columbus, Torts is using the whole, like he did last year in the playoffs, the whole, it's us against the world, guys. We're underdogs, and this is the stance he's going to take this season because they went all in last year.
They're going to be
in the playoffs. Yeah, and they're going to be underdogs. But I would love to see, for nothing other than the media here in Toronto, I would love to see Torts here in Toronto because Toronto is a hockey town, okay, and the media is all over these guys in the scrums, and you lose a couple games and they're on Torts, he's just going to lose it. He's going to absolutely lose it. Kind of like what he did when he was in New York, what I mean, with I can't remember who the reporter was. I want to say Banksy or Brooksy. I think it was Brooksy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And
he used to go at him all the time. And it was just the media clips. Happen, but it would be fantastic to see it here.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we got two more games left on the board. We got Calgary taking on Colorado. This was a great playoff series last year. We had the Avalanche pulling the upset on the Calgary Flames. Now they are at home opening. It opened as a minus $1.35 favorite, but we've seen money coming out Calgary. It's now $1.20, $1.25 wherever you shop around. Total 6.5 shaded to the under. And I know a lot of times I like to look for the team that lost in the playoff series to get that revenge spot. That would be Calgary. But this Colorado team, this Colorado team has some really strong talent, especially up front. That was kind of their issue too, that they were really top heavy. Last year, Philip Grubauer had a stellar performance, but that was his first full year as a starter. You wonder if those minutes are going to start to add up as things go along with him being in net. He's really the only guy they have. Their backup to rookie, kind of unproven coming out of the Swiss league. So he's going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting in net this year for Colorado to get back into the postseason. But I think this would be a good spot to look at them tonight at home in this opener. Dave, I know we were talking about this off air. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, you got the playoff revenge. That was a disastrous series for the Flames, and they're an interesting team because I think they're built for the regular season rather than the playoffs. They're still one of the smaller teams in the league physically. And, at the end of the season, especially in the playoffs, when things get to be close checking, I don't think that's going to serve them well. But they look like a dynamite regular season team again. Riddick is now the number one goaltender. He's got something to prove as he got bypassed in the playoffs last year for Mike Smith. So Riddick has some motivation here. Colorado's got the best, very, very arguably the best first line in the league, but I'm not sure about their other production. Grubauer did a good job. They've got a nice home ice advantage, but I prefer the Calgary side here. I think they're going to be seriously motivated in this game, and I would look for their team speed to show early in the season. That's where I think they have their biggest advantage. They're about as fast as any team in the league.
Yeah.
And I think they can do pretty well out of the gate.
Carmine, thoughts?
Yeah, it's. I think once again Dave nailed it on the head. I don't have action in these next two games that we're going to discuss, but you look at you look at that first line for Colorado, and it's just like look at it. It's McKinnon, Kerfoot, Landeskog.
Yeah.
Like these guys, they carried that team last year. Can they do it again? Who knows? They're gonna score goals. They're gonna play well. They'll battle again for a playoff spot. But as far as you look at this number, it's $1.25 right now in the Avalanche. It's a game where the Flames, yes, they want to exact a little bit of revenge, and who knows, they may get it. For me, I'm not getting a big enough price on the Flames to take them. The over/under is shaded to the under right now, and that's probably where I would lean for this to be a lower scoring game. Where we saw it last night. There was the Leaf game was high scoring, and we saw three of them that had I think 5 goals scored in each of them. This is probably another one of those 3-1, 4-2 kind of games. It's a pass for me.
All right, we'll go to the last one on the board. Arizona, Anaheim. You got Anaheim at home, a minus $1.15, $1.10 favorite. 5.5 is being the total, shaded to the under. I really like this Arizona team going into this year. I mean, they had a lot of injury issues last year, but they've got some young talent. If they can stay healthy, they'll be right in the middle of that mix. The Pacific's obviously going to be. I know there's a lot of people saying that the division as a whole has fallen off, but I think with even Vancouver, and they made some mistakes last night, but I think Vancouver and Arizona are going to be some teams that hang around, maybe could be in that mix with the San Jose's, the Calgarys, and the Vegases in that division. It's going to be a competitive spot within that wild card range with this Arizona team. Anaheim, the only way they can go is up, really. I mean, it was absolutely disastrous last year. I expect to see them play a lot better, but I don't think they're ready to make that jump back into postseason mode just yet. They're still going to be toward the bottom along with LA. So, Dave, what are your thoughts on this one?
Look, for Arizona, it's real simple. I mean, they couldn't do anything about the injuries last year, but they've had 2 seasons in a row where they've come out of the gate and basically buried themselves with terrible Octobers. So there's a lot of pressure on this team to win right away this season and set a positive tone. They look to be improved over last year. The one thing, though, that could really hurt them in the long run, not so much tonight, but in the long run, is, well, I'll give you an example. You got the Golden Knights heading down there for a road game, I think next week, okay? There might be more Las Vegas fans in the stands than Arizona fans. Their home ice advantage, absolutely negligible, okay? It's basically the Tampa Bay Rays of the NHL. They need to move.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. They need to move. That area does not get into hockey. They have not shown any desire to get into hockey. I know it's not located not all that close to Phoenix, but get the team out of there. Send them someplace where they're going to get fan support, because I think that's going to hurt them again this year. Their lack of home ice advantage means they won't have that extra value in terms of getting those wins at home that a team usually needs to make the playoffs in the NHL. So I'm not agreeing with everybody who has the Coyotes in the playoff race or in the playoffs. I think on paper they're there, but they better play really well on the road, because I think they're going to be vulnerable at home with less of a home ice advantage than basically anybody else. As for tonight, John Gibson can keep Anaheim in the game by himself. Yeah. He's arguably one of the 2 best goalies in the league. I would look at the under, and I'm not a totals player, but I think goals will be tough to come by here.
Yeah, that is a good point with Arizona. I mean, when you saw them in the end run of last season, I mean, fans did start showing up, but like I said, there's always going to be visiting fans. I remember, growing up in Chicago, me and my dad, we flew down there to see the Hawks, and it was nothing but red and black there, and that was back when they were still pretty good. So obviously the years when they were really bad, nothing but like I said, the road teams fans coming in. Florida kind of the same way too.
And it's a losing culture.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't been to the playoffs in almost a decade,
Mm-hmm.
and it's tough to shake that culture.
Yeah, that's a good point. Carm, what do you think?
It's it's been mentioned. It's the same as watching the Florida Panthers at times. They've got like 5,000 or 6,000 fans at a game. This is not what an NHL franchise should be. Do they move the team? Who knows? They brought in Phil Kessel, I think, this year.
Yeah.
And
that's going to help them.
It is. There's a picture that I'm going to post a little later on today on Facebook. It's an art picture that it's actually started trending, I think, this morning, that someone drew it's O'Reilly holding the cup. It's all cartoon characters that NBC had it commissioned. And there's a player of every team there, and it's just the detail in these pictures is amazing. But you look at Kessel, and he's got a little hot dog, a little dancing hot dog in front of him, right?
You know what?
And it's just it's.
I'm gonna defend Phil Kessel here, and I'll tell you why.
All right.
And I'll provide the evidence. I know he's not the most athletic-looking guy in the world. He's not buffed out. He's played almost 800 straight games.
Yeah.
He's on the verge of having a shot to become the NHL's all-time Iron Man. So maybe you don't have to be the most buffed out guy in the world. Phil Kessel shows up every night, and everybody gets hurt in the NHL. He plays through the injuries. So that's the biggest bullshit knock out there, is that Kessel, look at Phil Kessel, ha ha ha. He plays every game.
Yeah.
This is a Dave. This is what usually is a media-driven agenda. I've seen it over the years, so I'm just talking about the picture in general and how he's portrayed. When he played in Toronto during training camp, I remember reading about him and Kadri and how people said that they reported the training camp about 20 Big Macs over the limit because they looked bigger. But it's just the way it is. Not everyone is going to be buffed out. Not everyone is going to have a six-pack. It's just not the way it is. Athletes are athletes.
Look at it this way. He doesn't have any muscles to pull, so he doesn't miss games with those injuries.
Right.
We can't talk about like the Kessel jinx, because hey, he did look what he did in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So it's a move that they made. Let's getting back to the game. The Ducks were like horrendous for most of the season last year. They actually played pretty well towards the end of the season when they played that spoiler role, and they were beating teams that needed to win. So Gibby can hold them in.
Yeah.
I didn't see many when I went to look at the lines this morning. I was hoping for a 6. I knew it wasn't going to be there, but I was hoping for a 6 to take the under. 5.5 is still a good play because I don't see many goals in this game.
Yeah, I agree with that. One quick thing about Arizona with the, we talked about, they're going to be moving to the Central Division next year. Houston's been kind of trying to shoot for an NHL team, so maybe that could be a landing spot for them down the road. So that'd be interesting to see.
It's a better sports town. Sorry, I mean, I'm not insulting, but the Diamondbacks don't draw.
Suns don't draw.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not a great. There's a lot. I'm approaching that age group, so I can say it. There's a shitload of old people down there. They're not driving a half an hour or 45 minutes to go see a hockey game or anything else.
And the reverse of that argument is always, when people talk about like, well, it's hot in Arizona and whatever. I heard so many people say professional sports will never work in Las Vegas. Yeah. Think again.
Las Vegas and Phoenix have nothing in common.
Yeah.
Outside of both being kind of desert towns, this is an event-driven town, and people like to go to stuff here. And the football team's going to sell out every game. The hockey team is just amazing, and if they get basketball and baseball down the road, they'll do well too.
Yeah.
Come on, get a soccer team. Get a soccer team. No,
well, they already have one. They have the Las Vegas Lights, and they actually draw up pretty well.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that the whatever the major soccer league is.
MLS. Yeah,
Okay.
MLS.
No
They're
problem.
looking to Las Vegas.
Well,
Absolutely.
once the new stadium opens, I imagine they'll be here.
Yeah, and plus Arizona being hot, all the more reason to go inside of a arena and watch some hockey, right? Think about it that way. But anyway, this has been Puck Time. This has been an absolutely awesome show. We ran pretty long, but it was worth it. Dave, Carm, thanks for being on. Tomorrow it'll be me and just Andrew as we break down the Friday card, the shorter card, and then like I said, I'll be back hosting Monday and Tuesday. Prez will be back on Wednesday. Find my plays at Sports Memo. Find Dave and Carmine's plays at Wager Talk, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care, guys. Good luck this weekend.
See ya.